So the um, text this morning that stood out to me as I was reading through our devotional app was Numbers 23, uh, the book of Numbers, chapter 23, verses 7 through 12. And just the context again is that Balak. And we're being interrupted already. Here we go. Let's see how. Um, so the context is Balak went to Balaam asking for Balaam to come and curse the Israelites because uh, Balak was concerned about the Israelites, wiping him out, and so he knows that Balaam has this unique interaction or unique relationship with God, and so he wants him to come and curse the Israelites. And so Balaam is then brought to the Israelites, and as he's been given the charge to curse them, this is sort of the context. They set up this altar, these 7 altars with a bull and a ram on each, and Balaam says to Balak, he says, "Stay here beside your offering while I go outside. Perhaps the Lord will come to meet with me. Whatever he reveals to me, I will tell you." Then he went off to a barren height. God met with him, and Balaam said, "I have prepared 7 altars, and on each altar I have offered a bull and a ram." The Lord put a word in Balaam's mouth and said, "Go back to Balak and give him this word." So he went back to him and found him standing beside his offering with all the Moabite officials. Then Balaam spoke this message. So this is kind of like the moment at which Balaam is supposed to deliver this message of cursing toward the Israelites. And so he comes with this word he received from the Lord, and then Balaam spoke this message. He says, "Balak brought me from Aram, king of Moab, from the eastern mountains. Come," he said, "curse Jacob for me. Come, denounce Israel. How can I curse those whom God has not cursed? How can I denounce those whom the Lord has not denounced? From the rocky peaks I see them, from the heights I view them. I see a people who live apart and do not consider themselves one of the nations. Who can count the dust of Jacob or number even a fourth of Israel? Let me die the death of the righteous, and may my final end be like theirs." Balak said to Balaam, "What have you done to me? I brought you to curse my enemies, but you have done nothing but bless them." He answered, Must I not speak what the Lord puts in my mouth?" So there's some really cool stuff in this passage, I think, that is great for us to consider during an election year. And here we have Balak saying, "I brought you to curse my enemies, but you have done nothing but bless them." So a few thoughts. First, when asked to curse others, may we bless them. And then he has this response. He says, "Must I not speak what the Lord put in my mouth?" And so the second thought, when asked to curse someone, or when we find ourselves in a position where we could curse our quote unquote enemy, may we bless them. But just like Balaam, may our blessing come out of intimacy with God. You see, there's this, he goes and he has that relationship with Yahweh, where he goes and hears the words of the Lord, and God puts words in his mouth. And so the blessing is not like a contrived, by Balaam's power, his sheer will. Like, he's taking direction from God. And he's taking that direction out of a place of intimacy, of connection, relationship. And then in verse 3, there's also this this moment where he says, "Stay here. Perhaps the Lord will come to meet with me." And there's this acknowledgement of, maybe this will happen. Maybe it won't. you know, and then in verse 4 it says God met with him. Um, but I think there's just something there to consider. Just this idea that you know, instead of cursing others, may we bless them. May our blessing come out of this intimacy with God. But there's also this recognition that intimacy with God requires our availability. We can't be intimate with our Creator if we're not making ourselves available to listen to our Creator. Yesterday in the spiritual formation and spiritual practices and formation Zoom with John Hanneman, you know, he kind of went through a list of you know, things that help us, you know, build greater intimacy and connectivity toward God. And the first thing that he listed was awareness, of taking time to stop and be aware of the ways that God is moving among us. That real simple idea of being available, just like Balaam was. So, and he listed out, you know, like Saint Ignatius's prayer of examen is actually a brilliant practice in developing the discipline of awareness and availability. So that, you know, when asked to curse, may we bless, may our blessing come out of intimacy with God, but may we also remember that intimacy with God requires our availability. So today, may our day be filled with availability toward God. May we be aware of his movements. May we come to know him more. May his love and grace overwhelm us. When asked to curse, may we bless as we proclaim, must I not speak what the Lord has put in my mouth? Amen.